Hey everybody, Max and Calabro here for IGN. 2020 has been a weird year for a lot of different reasons, but one thing that's been pretty strange is basically every big major motion picture has been kicked until next year or the year after or indefinitely, and there's been a lot of discussion around what the hell is going to happen to movie theaters. Calabro, you're a big movie guy. Why don't we talk about this a little bit? Are they going to go away, or are they just going to adapt or evolve, or what?
You know, there's been like a lot of talk about like movie theaters dying, and like, I'm not going to say that movie theaters aren't going to change or that like movie theaters are going to close, but like death is just something I don't necessarily think is going to happen, right? Like, let me put it this way, right? Like when you talk about the economy, I mean like coronavirus, and this is, by the way, all that we're talking about is all contingent on vaccines and how the pandemic gets handled in the future. But basically, when society returns back to normal, will there be, like, the question is like, will there be movie theaters left to go to? And like, no one is applying this kind of movie theater rhetoric to other industries. Like, people talk about, yes, restaurants are going to close, but no one's questioning the fact in a post-pandemic world, will people have the desire to go out in public and eat? Like, the sad truth, like the thing is like movie theaters have been around for like 100 years.
This isn't even their first pandemic.
Yeah. They survived the Spanish flu, but bear in mind, it does need to be noticed that at the time that the Spanish flu was going around somewhere like 70% of Americans were going to the movies at least once a week. There was no TV then. But to that point, right? Like, I feel that movie theaters have survived larger existential threats, which is like the invention of television, right? Like, that fundamentally put a picture in the home, just like we're talking about today, and yet people still found the urge to continue to go to the theater. And
then there were VCRs, and now the one big conversation is streaming. I guess what's sort of a cause for alarm is that we did recently see Disney announce that they're shifting focus from sort of theatrical releases to doing a lot of streaming entertainment. Disney Plus is obviously a huge thing. That's where they've dumped a handful of their bigger releases coming out this year. Do you see sort of the future of movie theaters changing the type of movies that are coming out or the type of movies that we see on different platforms?
At the end of the day, when I say that, like, I think movie theaters are going to change, what I mean is I think that movie theaters are going to get smaller. Blockbusters are going to be increasingly the only things that come out in movie theaters. Right? Like, I agree that demand is going to drop. There are going to be less people going to the theaters, but there are still going to be people that go to the theaters. And I think that the only films that are going to still manage to keep that kind of prestige are going to be like $250 million budget, like huge blockbusters, like Marvel movies, Star Wars, movies like that.
Yeah, movie-going events. And we've seen a bit of this. Like, obviously, a lot of the sort of the money that comes into, you know, like box office revenues does often come from sort of like added value stuff, whether it's like IMAX or having to rent Avatar 3D glasses. Do you see more of that stuff happening, or the overall experience becoming more of a blockbuster thing entirely?
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, so a couple of interesting facts that like we should just like talk about right now, just so it could color like the argument, right? In 2019, the average American went to go see like 4.6 movies. That means they went to a movie about once every 3 months, a fraction more, right? So like, if you saw like Star Wars, like The Rise of Skywalker, you saw Captain Marvel, you saw The Lion King, you saw John Wick, and you saw Uncut Gems, right? But like, by the way, best movie of
that was my favorite movie of the year.
Yeah, totally. But like, if they've only seen 5 movies, right? Like, we can make the argument that like most of the movies that they went to go see were these like tentpole releases. People are only going to the theaters 4.6 times. At the same time, like, as actual number of tickets per year sold has been dropping, the actual amount of revenue that the box office has been generating has been increasing. And a large part of that is due to the fact of premium theater formats, things like 3D, IMAX, and if you're one of those people, 4DX. I don't know why anybody goes to see a 4DX film, but I mean, teach their own.
It's an experience, Michael.
No, it's not, man. It's like literally squirting water in my face while I'm trying to eat popcorn. I don't know why that's I don't get it. But anyway.
So, well, let's back this up. Obviously, that type of experience is really only compatible with like the big stuff. Like there are some, you can definitely see some big, breathy art house movie on 70 millimeter. But for the most part, when you go see an IMAX movie, you're seeing, people punching Thanos in the face, or you're seeing, Spider-Man jumping around. It's about big time spectacle. So I guess the big question is like, is this going to be this weird sort of shift where movie theaters are only for the biggest things and then everything else winds up on streaming? Or are there like alternative theater going options that we might see possibly?
So I think in broad strokes, like that's what's going to happen, but that doesn't mean we live in a capitalist society. There's room to invent. There's room to create value in different ways. And like over the last couple of years, like movie theaters have been trying to figure out new ways to get people to theaters. I mean, I loved Movie Pass. Movie Pass was like my favorite thing in the world. I don't know if you had a Movie Pass, but back when they dropped it to $10 a month, I had two. I had a pair of tickets in my pocket at any time. So anytime I wanted to go to a movies, I would just be in the office like, hey, who wants to go to a movie after work? It's on me. Like, let's go see something weird. Sometimes it works. Sometimes
you still couldn't save the theaters. Good Lord.
Oh, no, they lost hundreds of dollars on me.
So obviously, we are not soothsayers. We are not fortune tellers. We cannot predict the future. And you probably could have guessed that by last year when we were like, well, how's Dune going to do at Christmas? Who knows? Can't wait for Avatar 2. But really, this is an interesting time for entertainment as a whole. It's going to be really curious to see what happens. You watching at home, presumably on some sort of portable device that can also be used to stream movies. Where do you see the future of filmmaking going? Do you want to go to the drive-in theater? Do you want to rent like a special sterilized pod that you can watch movies in? Are you going to go troop out to see Dune in your homemade still suit? Let us know in the comments. And for everything movies, entertainment, the future of media, keep it right here on IGN.
At AMC Dine-In Theaters, we're taking dinner and a movie to the next level. Enjoy burgers, bowls, even signature drinks. You can also order from a full menu of entrees.